pandemonium. Use my fangs to murder ya. Yo soy la diosa, los demonios no me controlan. Soy culebra.
What's up, everyone? 7 Octoberz here with another episode of Nightmare on Sedgwick Avenue. Today it's season 5, episode 16, and today we have another dope guest. I found him through Instagram. I want to say maybe like 2-3 years ago. I can't recall. His name is Armando Hernandez. He's a Mexican film enthusiast. He also now runs Trash-Mex Festival at the Frida Cinema, which we'll get into in a little bit. And then he also has a blog where he talks about different Trash-Mex like films that some are obscure. So without further ado, let me get him on the screen. Hey, Armando.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being on today. And I was kind of like shout out to Michael from See It on 16 millimeters because I just had him recently. And and I was like, I found you through Armando because I was telling him the story of how I came across your Instagram page. So sometimes I'll go down the rabbit hole and I'll kind of like search like hashtags. And I remember I think I was looking for like, I think it was either Pánico en la Montaña or like Vacaciones de Terror, one of the two. And I remember like your poster came up and that you have, and I was like, oh, this is dope. And then I think from there I just started following you, and then we kind of like started talking via social media. And then I finally was able to like meet you for a brief time where I went to the Frida Cinema. I think it was, I don't know if it was this year. I think it might have been the beginning of the year, right? Or was it last year?
It was technically last is November. We screened Cementerio del Terror,
Yeah. And so I've been kind of like following you for that journey, and I really love what you do. And I was like, I realized I never had you on the actual like Nightmare on Sedgwick, but I did have you on Nightmare Cinema, which is another segment I do where we review like my favorite horror films, and then I'll have a guest. And I think we did Ladrones de Tumbas, right? That was the one that we did.
Yeah, that was ironically like later on I ended up screening that at the Frida, which is so funny.
It was like we what's it called, manifested it or something.
We like reviewed it, and then after that, like 2 years later, that's literally like screened it at the Frida, and it was pretty successful. It was weird.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's kind of what I tell Michael. I always tell Michael, like, it's crazy how that one just like drew a crowd, like a big crowd.
Yeah,
and it's been around too, and it was already on Blu-ray by then, so it's like, people just wanted to see it,
Yeah, I really like that. Like you guys are putting those films because I was telling like Michael, like not a lot of people do that. Like at least putting them on the big screen. And like I remember watching those as a kid because I was born like in '89, but technically I grew up watching like '80s and '90s horror.
Yeah, me too.
And especially like Mexican '80s with my grandma. Like I would watch, like I said, like Vacaciones de Terror, Ladrones de Tumba, everything because they used to be on the TV, So it was kind of cool to like watch it. And that's what made one of the reasons why I fell in love with horror was watching those. And I just feel like they never gotten the love, or like they're underrated, I think, in my opinion. So it's
very underrated, yeah.
And like
now now it's like getting kind of attention, but it's still like not on top like other films, but it's
like
getting there, but very
films.
slowly.
Yeah,
it's very slowly. That's just my opinion, but
No, I agree because I feel like other foreign films get more because I don't know if I mean it is Mexican, so I guess I consider I don't know if they're foreign or not, but I feel like Italian, all these other films get more love.
That's more European stuff.
Sure.
And of course the American stuff. American stuff is very popular.
Exactly. So
all around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you guys are doing that you're giving it a recognition because I feel like we've impacted the genre a lot. It's kind of hidden, or at least not a lot of people are familiar with it if they're not Mexican. And I love that you do the subtitles too, so people can actually, if you don't understand Spanish. How time consuming is that?
So for the Almada movie, which we'll get to in a little bit, we'll get to it, right?
Yeah.
So that took me 2 days, about 2 days, but it's not like it was 2 days in a row. It was like one day spread out, and then the last day, was like 2 days before the actual festival. So it's easy. The thing is, it's easy if you know obviously what to do and how you work the program. It's just like, you get burned out quick. Especially like I was telling a friend, I was like, the second day, it's when I felt burned out. I was just like, I want to get this done.
Yeah.
But, you just got to make sure everything's syncing right. And then you're getting the dialogue right too in English. Because sometimes when you translate from Spanish to English, it might not sound
Yeah.
good in English, you know?
Yeah.
Like, let's say you do a joke in Spanish, it's not gonna come out right as a joke in English. It's not gonna sound right. So it's like
Yeah.
you gotta find a way to go around it, you know? Like you gotta, in other words, I like to say you gotta just make something up
Mm-hmm.
so it just kind of goes along with what they're saying, but it's not
Yeah.
necessarily what they're actually saying. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a very, very complicated process right there. But other than that, it's fun. Like I like doing that. Like but so far I've only done it for two movies, just
Mm-hmm.
me personally, for personal
Yeah.
reasons, but for this screening I did it for myself. I had to do it. So yeah. But no, it was cool. It was cool. It was just like I said, it's very time consuming for sure. And very like once you're done, you're like, damn, finally, you know?
Yeah. And do you do
Yeah.
it like so the actual program that you use, does it kind of translate it for you, or you literally have to like type everything?
I Yeah, I type everything. I know
Yeah.
nowadays there are programs that are like, yeah, you can just sync in the video and then it
Uh-huh.
kind of does it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if you noticed Facebook does that too. I noticed
Oh no.
Facebook, like if you upload something like in a different language, it will more than likely translate it in English. And it's pretty
Oh wow.
good, like from what I've seen. It's kind of good actually, but I mean, if I were to do that, I'm pretty sure I would have to spend a lot of money, you know,
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that. So it's like it's better than just doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Not only because, you know, you obviously are saving money, but just because you'll know what to say for sure,
Yeah.
you know, rather than just expect a program to do it. So that's why
Yeah.
with this whole artificial intelligence thing, it's like it's cool, yeah, it's a good tool, but you still
To
gotta, you
an
know,
extent.
keep an
Yeah.
eye on. You gotta keep an eye on it. You know, you gotta make sure that it is
Yeah.
actually getting it right, not just assume just because
That's
it's
true.
there. You know, that's
Yeah.
what I always tell people. Like, yeah, we could rely on it. We can have it help you with writing too, but
Yeah.
after it's done writing for you, you still gotta review it. So it's like,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
just like a tool.
yeah,
It's not something you just use to do
exactly,
everything,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so the program it's that I use, it's called AEIG ISUB,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pretty old school program from what I gathered up on, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very reliable. A lot of people use it, like especially when they make fan subtitles for stuff.
Yeah.
This is the program that they use. So yeah, it's a cool tool.
That's
It's
cool.
just like I said, it's very time consuming, and yeah,
So do you have to like
you're
download the movie? Like you must have to like have it right on your computer for you to be able to
yeah,
add the
you have you have to have the video on your computer. So yeah, so
Okay.
that's pretty much. So I was lucky enough to already have the copy of the movie and then just sync it up from there. So I'm right there watching
Nice.
it and then typing it as it goes and then making sure that it's matching with the time. So
Oh wow. Well, thank you for
yeah,
doing that because I'm like that is a lot honestly. You say it is not, but for me
that
I'm
was
like I don't think I could do
yeah,
it.
yeah. But no, yeah, it was done, so it was cool.
Yeah. And what like I don't know if I asked you this the last time we spoke on my other show or segment, but how did
Mhm.
you fall in love with like the like Mexican films in general? Like was there a specific like movie or what was it that drew you to like that like
Mhm.
Mexican film?
Well, kind of touching base like with you, you know how you say you grew up watching it.
Mhm.
You're around that environment. So that's pretty much how it was, you know, growing up. It's just like you're around that stuff, you know, you're around the music, the food,
Yeah.
whatever, the movies, TV. And yeah, you know, so it's always been there. So
Yeah.
it's like when it first started, I was probably like 7 years old. I was literally 7 years old,
Mm.
I remember, because I was in second grade, I remember. And then literally it was just Saturday morning, no, not Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon
Uh-huh.
with my parents, and then we didn't have cable, obviously, like a lot of people back then.
Yeah.
I would like to say because
Yeah.
I feel like
Same
nowadays
here.
everybody has
Yeah.
cable or they have something. But anyways, so we didn't have cable, so we just watched whatever was on TV, and then I remember my mom was just like, "Oh, they're gonna give Ratas de la Ciudad on Channel 62, you know."
Yeah.
And then yeah, so we all just literally watched it. And I think my brother, no, my brother was probably just like in his room or something, playing video games or something. So it's
Yeah.
just me and my parents.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the movie that kind of pretty much started it in a way. I
Okay.
remember just because that movie is kind of just stuck in my head. I remember.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh you know, it's like this is some intense stuff, you know. Even though it was like censored at times because it was TV, but still, it's like, oh man, this is some crazy stuff. You know, it's basically it's very like melodramatic, but it's also very like sleazy too.
Yeah.
So basically, it's about this guy. He moves to Mexico City with his son. He doesn't
Mhm.
have a wife anymore. His wife left him. And yeah, he gets a job as a trainer, a personal trainer. I forgot exactly. And yeah, he's just with his son, and then they go to an amusement park. They have a good day, and then the son gets hit by a car, literally. Like
Yeah.
you see it happen too. It's like the car hits the boy, and then he's treated in the hospital. He gets into this like big fight with the cop. The cop ends up taking him in and tortures him. Even like we see him like torturing the poor guy,
Oh my
by
gosh.
the cop, the same cop who hit the son, by the way. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and then after that, so he gets sent away to jail, like
Uh-huh.
very unfairly, obviously, because the guy didn't really do anything other than just like fight the cop.
Mhm.
And then yeah, he basically gets separated from his son, and then the son ends up running away from the orphanage he was supposed to be in, or he's going to stay at,
Yeah.
and he just ends up in the streets. He joins like a, he just yeah, he joins with this other kid that's a street kid,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, they just rob people. They injure people with their knives. They stab them or they like fight them.
Yeah.
Basically, just struggling to survive. It's just robbing people constantly.
Yeah.
And then when he gets out, the dad, he searches for him. He becomes a cop himself, which is so funny, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so and then this is Valentin Trujillo, by the way, the actor, the
Oh,
father. So
okay.
of course he's a well-known actor, and he's always playing like a vigilante type of character. So
Yeah.
he's of course playing this kind of character again. So along the way he searches for his son. It's like he's shooting bad guys and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's the thing. It's a very very sad story. Of a guy
Mhm.
looking for his son, and then along the way it's like you see the cities, urban areas just struggling with like addiction and like
Yeah.
crime. Yeah, because that's another thing too in the movie. You see like kids like huffing glue, because that was like a thing obviously over there back then.
Mhm.
Like you
That's
huff
crazy.
glue and you're just in this. Yeah, so. And it doesn't end well either. Like that's not a happy ending at all. I remember that movie just being not happy at all. Like, man, this is like a really sad movie. But I liked it.
Yeah.
It was just like it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And my favorite scene in the movie, and then I'll shut up.
No, you're
But
fine.
there's this scene in the movie, like right in the middle. It's right before he turns into a cop. Like his friend he was in jail that set him up as a cop. He's like, hey, you're gonna talk to the boss. He's gonna get you the job. And then so he's like,
Mhm.
hey, so he wants to join. He wants to join us on the squad. And then the police chief or whatever is like, okay, go fight that guy over there. They're in a bar. And then the guy's like, what? Like, go beat the shit out of him. Go do it. He literally tells him like that, like, go beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he punches the guy, and then everybody just starts fighting. And in the background, the group Los Caminantes. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with
Yeah.
Los Caminantes. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So Los Caminantes are in that bar playing on the top of the ceiling of the bar. I don't know how to explain it, but so
Yeah,
they're
kind of.
playing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're just literally playing on the top of the bar still while everybody's fighting. Like
Uh-huh.
they're not even stopping or anything.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah, it's
hilarious.
like it's like a crazy scene. I was just like, wow, this is weird.
Can you find that
So
one online
yeah,
or no, that film? Or is it kind of
uh,
obscure?
it's kind of out there. Like there is like little shoddy copies on YouTube. You could probably
Uh-huh.
watch it there, but
Okay.
yeah, it's one of those movies that really pretty much has gotten lost with time, I want to say. Like it was out on DVD. It came out
Okay.
on DVD. But nowadays it's like you can't find Mexican DVDs anywhere. So
Yeah, it's really rare.
it's really rare nowadays because they don't print them anymore. That's another
Mm-hmm.
thing too. So yeah, that's one of those movies that you have to kind of dig for nowadays. But yeah, I mean you'll be able to find it. You just have to really
Okay.
look and
I
make
have to
sure you're
watch
not
it.
overspending too. Yeah. It's cool though. I really that's literally one of my favorite movies right there, from this particular genre at least.
That's cool. Yeah, and that's what I like
Yeah.
about like you sharing your films because you have your collection and everything, which we'll get into in a little bit. But
Mm.
like some of the films that you post, I'm like either maybe I watched them as a kid and I just forgot, or some of them honestly I didn't even know they existed. I was like, what? Like this actors in this novela, like or like they were in. I think the other day you
Yeah.
posted maybe like a couple weeks it was Abraham Ramos. And he was in this like
Oh,
satanic cult one, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I
oh
never even
yeah,
knew.
yeah. A lot of those were like straight to video sometimes too, so that's another reason why.
Yeah,
It wasn't like a theatrical release, so. But yeah, no, yeah, a lot of actors, famous actors even, were
yeah.
like in movies like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see that because I grew up like watching novelas, but I never saw like some of these. I was like, oh shit, like they had some horror movies that they were in. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And your trailers too, like I like obviously they're funny, but I like it
Yeah,
because some of them, I'm like, damn, like again, I miss some of these movies, and I was like, it makes me want to go see them, but I know, like you said, some of them are super obscure, so it's hard to even like
yeah,
get your hands to be able to watch them. So it's kind of
yeah.
bummed sometimes. I'm like, damn, I want to go see that one, but I don't have the
Oh,
video.
believe me. Yeah, yeah. It took me a while to find everything that I wanted and more after a while, especially
Yeah.
like over the years. It's like, oh, I found out about this movie. It's like, I gotta find it. Let me look online. It's like, oh, it's not online. It's like, oh, I'll have to wait and see where it comes out. And eventually it'll pop up. It's weird. I've been lucky over the
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much I gotten to the point where it's like, I got everything that I've been looking for so
Yeah.
long. Now it's like, okay, I think I'm good. Like, I don't really dig as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, it's like constantly digging everywhere online or wherever I could like find movies.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, I think I'm good.
Ho-
If I
ho-
see something, maybe I'll buy it. But now it's like, I don't have to buy it. I'll think by myself.
Yeah.
I could wait, or I can like be like, I think I already have that even. You know,
Yeah.
I don't
How
need
how
another
big is
copy
your
of it.
collection?
Uh, it's pretty big. I mean, it's a lot of VHS, so it takes up a lot of room too. And the reason
Okay.
it's VHS again, it's because a lot of these didn't come out on DVD. But I have DVDs too, of
Yeah.
course. And
Yeah.
then of course the Blu-rays that are coming out nowadays. But yeah, it's quite large. I think one time I did a rough count of the VHS was
Uh-huh.
like 3,000.
Oh
And
shit.
this was just me just going like one, two, two, three, whatever.
Yeah.
So it could have been less than 3,000.
Yeah.
It was a lot though for sure that I counted. This was like shelf stuff that I have two shelves, and then I
Uh-huh.
have stuff in the closet which are in containers, and the containers are just filled, and yeah, it's just crazy.
That's crazy. You should have
But
like a
it's
museum where you just like show them,
yeah, like eventually I do want to put them somewhere on display, but it's
Yeah.
like I gotta find somewhere like reliable and safe. But so far it's pretty cool. It's just cool to have it with me. But I'm
Yeah.
open to having it somewhere like safe as well. Like let's say an archive, like an actual archive, not some
Yeah.
not some person's studio or whatever. Like
Yeah.
people have told me before, they'll be like, "Oh, you can just keep the stuff here. We'll have it on display." It's like their art studio or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, nah,
Yeah. Yeah, it has to be
no.
somewhere
But
safe.
kind of like touching back with Michael's. Like Michael's like, oh, like UCLA arch. I remember we're talking about archiving and stuff like that. And he's like, oh,
Hmm.
maybe UCLA would probably like take him in for you, like if you ever, they don't want him with you anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that would actually make sense, a
Yeah.
university or something if they would want to.
Yeah.
But right now, it's like, nah, it's still with me. So when the time comes, that's when I'll seek out people like archives or whatever. Like, hey, do you guys want this? Hold this for me.
Yeah.
Use it for your educational purposes or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And the covers back then too were like really dope. Like the way the artwork that they did. Some of them
Oh
were like
yeah.
cheesy, but I don't know. I think that's like one thing that stood out for me for Mexican films when I would go to the mom and pop shops to rent like the VHSs was like the
Oh
cover
yeah.
art.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll use the poster art, or they would just like have art commission, and sometimes those arts are kind of crazy or really bad. Actually,
Yeah.
there's some that are really bad, and then some that are bad, but they're kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, they have one that's cool actually. It's from a movie called Violencia Domiciliaria.
Oh wow. Oh yeah,
That's actually a really cool cover.
that's a
Like
cool
even
cover.
the even
Yeah.
like the poster for it, like I don't have the poster, but I've seen it before. It's pretty like basic. It's
Uh huh.
white and it just has like the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've always liked this. Like this actually pops out more.
Yeah.
I think I have a poster of this too somewhere. I have to look, but yeah, I'll say that's what I'm saying. It's still pretty relevant to what the movie is. It's like, he's in there, he's doing that, she's in the movie. The skull, I mean, that's just like a symbol of what's gonna happen, I guess, death.
What's the name of the
But
movie again for that one?
Violencia Domicilio, and then it's
Okay.
Jardín de la Paz, like under it, like another alternate title, Jardín de la
Okay.
Paz.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good movie. I actually really like this movie, actually.
What's that one about? Is it like a
It's
cult or?
it's like a home invasion movie.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so this guy and like two other guys, and then the girl in the cover right here, they just like break into this rich man's house, and his wife is in there, and they're like Italian, so they have like these like cheesy fake Italian accents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just in there like terrorizing, like, hey, we want your money, your jewels, whatever.
Yeah.
So back and forth. It's like home invasion, and then there's like a
Okay.
twist at the end. Like I'm not gonna spoil it, obviously, but
Yeah, yeah.
there's like a really crazy twist, and you find out more about the couple that they're like holding hostage. It's interesting. It's weird, but it's interesting. So I was like, oh, cool. This is interesting.
Yeah, the film. That's what I like
Yeah.
about the Mexican genre, though, too. Like back, like the '80s,
Hmm.
'70s, whatever. Because they were like so freaking weird. Like some of it was like random stuff that happened in the movie, but it was like you said, it made it like memorable and like I don't know something about the story that it drew me.
Yeah. Just like this movie, like it's called Jardín de la Paz. So the movie's called that too, is because the lady in the movie, the one that the Italian lady,
Hmm.
she's like attending to her garden all the time, and then like, and the ending again, she's attending to the garden, and then I mean, I'm not gonna go further, but
Yeah,
the garden is there.
yeah.
Like, okay, yeah,
um.
there's like a dark secret in the garden kind of thing.
Okay. Is that
Not
one
horror
easy
or
to
anything.
find too, or is that one hard to find online?
It's actually hard to find. I don't think it came out on DVD, as I recall.
Yeah.
I think it's only come out on video, like this one that I have and other ones.
Yeah.
And it's aired on TV before, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's an example right there. It's not, it was never released on DVD.
Yeah, something is sad sometimes. It's like, man, like you're like one of the few people that have it, like so it's kind of like I was telling Michael,
Yeah,
like it's cool that you guys giving it shine because some of these films probably people haven't seen it in years, or some people haven't never seen them, and so it's cool that you guys are doing that. And kind of brings me to my next question is like, how did that? Because I remember you started out in LA. I don't know if it was a bar or something where you started your first kind of like screenings, and then you moved to Frida Cinema,
um,
right? Or
yeah. Well, it was actually my friend's bookshop right after.
oh yeah, bookshop. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did a poster exhibit there because she likes to have exhibits on her walls on her shop.
Uh huh.
And then yeah, so the opportunity came. She's like, "Hey, would you want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure."
Hmm.
And we did it, and yeah, people really came out. Like, I didn't even think like it was gonna be like a big deal. I thought it was gonna be like, people were gonna come,
Hmm.
obviously, but it pretty much did go beyond the expectations.
Yeah.
People came and they were like, "Wow, this is cool." I haven't really like seen stuff like this around before. Or oh, I haven't seen this movie. They started getting nostalgic about it too.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then after that, she's like, "Hey, would you want to like just show movies?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." So yeah, we did like a couple, I believe. And a
Yeah.
few people came, and it was cool. Like nobody left disappointed. The people came and they were like, "Oh, I like that. I like that. That was really fun. That was interesting. I
Yeah.
never seen that before. Or I have seen it, but don't really remember. But it was cool to see it again. So it was cool."
Yeah.
And then after that, I did it at Whammy Analog Media, the VHS shop in whatchamacallit, not Silver Lake, Echo Park.
Okay.
I did three there, and those were pretty cool too. People came out, and I showed them some pretty obscure stuff on video. Those were good, yeah. And then after that, that's literally where I met Michael too, was at Whammy, ironically.
Oh, nice.
And then Michael obviously like found out what I did, and he had the idea there about Frida, like, oh, we could do something at Frida, and that's pretty much how we aligned right there.
That's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And for those listening in, whenever this drops, but is Trash-Mex Festival just passed this past weekend in May of 2023 at the Frida
Hmm.
Cinema, and Frida Cinema is in Orange County for those that don't know. But
Hmm.
yeah, congrats on that. I saw that it was like a great success for you guys.
Yeah, it
Um,
was good.
and you had some special guests too, like an expert that
Yeah,
that talks about El Santo, right? Or
yeah, Dr. David Wild. Yeah, he's a really big inspiration for me actually. So like whenever back in the day I was looking at movies or something, like like titles, I came across like his website. It's like from the university he was working at, which was the University of Maryland, I believe.
okay.
So he had like this extension on their website where he had his work, which was like writings of like reviews and stuff like that, research of Mexican films and actors.
Hmm.
And then I saw that he had like a bunch of stuff for El Santo, and then I forgot what he said exactly, that he was the first to have like a website devoted to El Santo in
Oh wow.
1995, I believe. So he was one of the first people on the internet to really like have something about El Santo on there,
Yeah.
like a place where there was info,
Yeah.
pre-Wikipedia days, basically. He had something about El Santo. So he dwelled really deep into the career of him. So
Mhm.
that's why when me and got the idea to screen the Santo movies, it's like, well, who can we get? So I thought immediately, Dr. Wilt,
Yeah.
he's the only one that I know for sure that will be like, hey, this is this, and yeah, he gave a good lecture. It was pretty long at the
Yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
so we even told him like, hey, let's cut it and we'll finish it after the second movie.
Yeah.
But it was cool though, because he had a lot to say, obviously. The
That's
funny thing
cool.
is they told him 15, they're like, can you do this in 15? He was like, I'll try. And I already had a feeling it's like it's not gonna go 15 minutes, it's gonna go beyond that. And he did go beyond that
Hmm.
and even further a little bit, just almost. And then that's when we're
Yeah.
like, hey, David, like let's stop now and then
Start
we'll
playing the
finish.
music and like in the
Let's
Grammys.
just yeah, exactly. That was the funny part about it though. But it was cool though. I mean, regardless, everybed was still happy with what he did.
Yeah. That's
It
pretty
wasn't like
cool.
it wasn't like a bad thing what he did. It
Yeah.
was just like, oh, we were on schedule, so it's like, all
Yeah.
right, let's just finish this up and then we'll finish after, dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's like, okay, yeah, for sure. And then yeah, so after the second movie, I mean, the first movie was over. He came back, spoke a little bit more. Yeah, people got to learn. Like I said, it was cool because we saw the movies. Obviously, people were there
Hmm.
for the movies for sure.
Yeah.
But it was also cool to
Learn more.
get people to learn exactly who he was and about these movies and stuff like that. So
That's pretty
I
cool.
hope I really do hope people did get to learn a little bit more rather than just know what they know.
Yeah.
It's more of
That's a
like,
cool
hey,
idea to have him there.
oh yeah, and he was really cool to talk to even just before that. Like we were there at the theater, we were just talking, and right away me and him just clicked. We were cool.
Hmm.
We talked about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So he
Is
knows
he
what
in the
he's.
area, like near the area or?
No, so he's from Maryland,
Oh, damn.
Richmond, Maryland, I believe. Yeah, he's
Okay.
very far. Yeah, so he's been over there for the longest time. He was a librarian, I believe, for the university. I forgot exactly. And then
Yeah.
he started teaching over there, but just like a film class, just for like 2 days, I believe he says he does.
Uh-huh.
And then he retired from the library job at the university, and then that's when he did the teaching thing. And he only does that part time. But of course, he's still doing his own research on Mexican films and his class as well. So yeah,
Okay.
he's still busy, he's about 60 some years old, and he's still just grinding it.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what I admired about him too, is that he's still devoted to what he does and his interests. And that's kind
Yeah.
of why, like I said, he's like an inspiration because he's just dwelling into the cinema
Hmm.
very deeply. And it's gotten to the point where it's like, yeah, he's starting to get recognition. Like he's in the box set with Abraham,
Hmm.
the
Oh,
guest,
yeah, yeah.
Abraham Castillo. Yeah, so they're both in the Blu-ray box that's coming out, the Mexican horror one. And then he did the El Santo one too recently.
Oh, I think I just got that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, the first two movies, yeah. So David Wood has something in there as well. So see, that's not what I'm saying. So his work gotten to the point where it's like they
It's
want
more
him to
known.
be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want him to be part of this. So that's why I'm very happy with that.
That's pretty
So
cool. Yeah, and
no,
shout
yeah.
out
So that's what I'm saying.
to Abraham
Dr. David Wood or
Flores.
Abraham.
Abraham
Yeah,
Flores from Aullidos
yeah,
Panteoneros, right? Yeah.
yeah. So they know each other too. That's what I'm saying. See, so like minds, connect.
Yeah.
And ironically, I've met Abraham too. So it's like, I've met these two guys already. So it's
That's
cool to
that's
know
cool.
that there's others out there dwelling into the cinema.
Yeah, and it's cool what he's doing right now. Like, cause I just had him like last season on the podcast, and I think I found him through you too. I found a lot of
Hmm.
people through you.
Yeah.
So shout out to you. But yeah, and then he's doing now the Cinemex, right? Like he did like some collaboration with them where they're showing like a bunch of the
Oh,
black
yeah.
and white horror films. So that's really
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah. Yeah, the original idea was to have him and Dr. Wilt, but
Yeah,
Abraham was like, yeah, he was down, but then of course he got caught up with this, so it was understandable he couldn't come,
yeah,
but it was cool. But still, regardless, he was happy with the turnout too. He was like, oh, congrats. So I was
yeah,
like, oh yeah. So eventually, hopefully, we do something with him. But for now, it's like, he had his own thing going over there. And it was pretty big, from what
yeah.
I saw, and it's cool, especially in the theater chain over there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was like, damn, I wish I was in Mexico right now.
Yeah, it looked cool. Like from what I saw, they had like this nice little premiere for it, and then the theater. Some of the theaters, I think, they even decorated like the theater with like spider webs and
I
coffins.
know I saw that. It looked cool. And then he had
Yeah.
what's her name? The actress that he had as his date. I was like, oh shit, the one she wasn't like I think La
Oh
Llorona or something. One of the
no. Yeah,
her
yeah, yeah. Hold
Rosa
on, let me look her up.
Arena? No, Rosa Arena. I don't know why I want to say Rosa Arenas, but I don't know what her
Uh,
name was.
Her last name is Arenas. Hold on.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. I was like, oh wow, he's doing his thing out there.
Yeah. Rosita Arenas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw her. Yeah, I saw her speak at the Academy. So when he was here in Los Angeles, well, not here, Los Angeles. I'm in Pomona, but
Uh-huh.
when he was doing his thing in Los Angeles and at the Academy Museum,
Mm-hmm.
he screened El Espejo de la Bruja. He had Rosita Arenas there in person,
Okay.
and then she spoke about the movie and then how she was married to April Salazar.
Yeah.
It was cool to, so it was pretty cool to see her there, and then for him to still like be with her,
Yeah.
this year with with the whole thing. Yeah, so it's cool that she's part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool like to see like a little bit everywhere, like the different impact, like people like you, Michael, and like Abraham, what they're doing, with like showing
Yeah,
more like obscure films or films that people haven't seen on
yeah,
the big screen.
yeah. With him with the classic horror, and
Yeah.
then me with this more obscure like
Yeah.
later stuff. Yeah. So that's another thing me and Abraham always saying like, oh, I dwell into the older stuff. You dwell into like the 80s, 90s. It's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And what's your favorite film you've like screened so far?
So over the weekend we screened 6 movies, and out of those 6, man, it would probably be the Sunday ones, which was Violador Infernal and Fiscal de Hierro. And
Okay.
if you don't know what Violador Infernal is, it's literally infernal rapist. Especially when I say that, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like really intense.
like what kind of a movie is that? It's like, but that's the whole point of the movie. That's kind of what I was trying. That's why I wanted to screen it. It's like that's kind of the point of the movie. It's supposed to shock you.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exploitation movie.
Yeah.
That was the selling point. It's like, hey, this is a guy about a rapist, satanic rapist,
Yeah.
it's a killer.
And I saw
And
that,
the
I was like,
funny,
oh wow, the premise was like crazy. I was like, what the fuck is this?
it's
But
a
I was like,
crazy,
I would
yeah,
watch it.
it's a pretty crazy premise. Yeah. The
Yeah.
funny thing is, people before like the screenings happen, they're like, oh, you're gonna screen it? Like, yeah. We're gonna be the first ones to do it after so many years.
Uh-huh.
And then people were like, oh, we're probably gonna have walkouts watch. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think people are gonna be that sensitive. And then sure enough, Sunday when the movie started, like I think a few minutes into it,
Mm-hmm.
even before anything actually really happened, it just started to get really intense. I noticed
Mm-hmm.
2 people walked out, like they couldn't take it, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I learned that it was a guy and his like teenage daughter, and I was like, why would you bring your teenage daughter to a movie called Viola de Nifer?
Yeah, it's like Google it and translate it.
Yeah, like at first I thought it was just, I don't know, a couple. People were like, oh hell
Yeah.
no. But it turned out to be a guy and his teenage daughter. I was like, wow, really?
Oh my God. I know sometimes I
But
think about like these movies and like certain types of music. Like I was listening to Eminem, the Marshall Matters one, where like it has "Kill You" and all these like Kim, and it's like really graphic, like pretty much like about like doing domestic violence and all this different stuff. And I was like, damn, all this stuff like now people would have canceled it. But like to me, like I grew up watching this stuff, so like it's like Mujeres Crudas de la
yeah,
Vida Real was super intense, Like some of them I
yeah,
couldn't watch because it was too much. But that's
yeah,
like the era we grew up in, so I'm not like as sensitive. Like
mm,
there's certain ones where like the
yeah,
torture rape ones that I'm like I won't watch those. But like the Mexican ones, I don't know, something about it is like a nostalgia about it. Not that I condone it, but
mm,
it's like
yeah.
nostalgia.
It's a product of its time for sure. Because then
Yeah.
there's like some homophobic remarks in there
Yes.
too. Even I was just like, you shouldn't have said that. Like, but this is just me because we're living in a time where it's like you don't say shit like that.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
So, but then it was just like, that was just the mindset. Then, they didn't
Mhm.
really think much of it. It's like they just thought being gay was a bad thing.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like it's more acceptable, obviously.
That's
And
true.
I I'm
Yeah.
and I'm for it too. Like you
Yeah.
can be
Same
gay
here.
for all I care. You're cool. I don't give a fuck. But
Yeah.
when they say the gay remarks, I'm like, I'm even just like awkward.
It was like
And
listening to
like I,
Eminem too. Like he had a bunch of
Yeah.
homophobic
And then like
lyrics.
it comes off funny too, but then it's
Yeah.
like you feel bad for wanting to laugh. But some people in
Yeah.
the audience laugh, but again, like I said, it's a product of its time. People are gonna just take it as it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Obviously it was meant to be like an insult and like a funny thing. I didn't laugh. I just thought
Yeah.
but people laugh, so it's like okay, so see people know what the fuck they're watching. It's just
Yeah.
what the fuck. It's just them. It's just a product of its time. It's the 80s, the late 80s.
That's
But
true.
yeah, so that's the thing. So that was probably like the one that I really wanted to screen, just because, like I said, I wanted to have something really different, and I
Hmm.
wanted it to be something not so innocent either. Like I wanted like just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, just to kind of get at people, like get the emotions out,
Yeah.
because I feel like nowadays with movies, like they want to be brutal,
Mm-hmm.
but to a certain extent, it's like, okay, we'll be brutal, but we're gonna not be so brutal. Like we still want to like be okay. We want to still not offend nobody.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like you gotta be offensive a little bit just to get to your point, to really show that you are making something really messed up. Like let's
Yeah.
say Hostel, for example. Hostel
Oh yeah.
was, I thought it was pretty brutal for what it was,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I feel like that movie could have been even worse.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have really went harder on the torture,
Uh-huh.
but obviously they wanted to be like, that's it. They don't want to freak too many people out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we got the eyeball. That's gross enough. And I'm just thinking they could have went way worse than that. Like
And
I
what do you
was
think
even
like
thinking,
what do you think the Mexican horror films like the 80s ones got away with it? Did they not have ratings or they just didn't care?
well, they had ratings obviously over there. I think obviously there was to a certain extent, obviously still.
Yeah.
You just couldn't show certain things or to them it's just like here, it's like as long as you don't go too far with the sex, you're fine.
Yeah.
Infernal Rape is pretty much gets away with it just because it's
Mhm.
that's really what the movie's about. It's like he's raping, he's a rapist.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you don't, but it doesn't get so graphic. Like you don't see him actually doing it. You just see him just getting on his victims and then
Yeah.
doing what he does, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's just what it is. Obviously they still went with the ratings, the expectations and all. But
Yeah.
it was fairly close to it's like, oh wow, this is intense.
Yeah, yeah, because I felt some of them were like, I think you showed one that I had never seen. It was like a clip of like a little kid that like his eye was stolen. I think it was you. You
Oh
said,
yeah, Olor a Muerte. Yeah, Olor a Muerte.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, that shit was intense. Like that's still like kind of like for some people might be like triggering, you know? I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's a pretty brutal movie. It's just so sleazy and then it's like, yeah, violent. Like
Yeah.
that little boy, like like let me delve a little bit into that movie. So it's like about basically the way it starts is pretty fucked up. They have the three burned bodies in the morgue,
Uh
you
huh.
know, and then basically the reporter's like, what happened to these kids? Like what's
Hmm.
going on? And then that's when we get to a flashback to the little boy, they zoom into the little boy's body,
Uh huh.
and then that's when they delve into the story of him. He's like not really all there. Like he's maybe kind of like, I would say nowadays, I would think now it's like he's autistic. I don't think he was
Okay.
dumb per se.
Yeah.
It's just he was just challenging. Like he wasn't mentally challenged. He just didn't really like have the
Fit in
smarts
or
really,
yeah.
you know. So yeah, so his parents are like saying, oh, he's retarded. I hate saying that by the way. I don't
Yeah.
condone that word, but
Yeah.
that's what they're saying in the movie.
Yeah.
He's retarded. We got to do something, and then they're like, well, we'll just send them away to a facility or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the little boy's like, obviously he's like no, he doesn't want to be sent away. So he
Mm-hmm.
runs away, and then he meets up with like these street kids, and then like a girl that he knows from the neighborhood joins him too because she was assaulted around that same time. She gets assaulted and she doesn't want to be home, so she
Okay.
joins him in the streets, and then they're like joining. Like they go with a street gang. Then another rival street gang comes, and they try to fight each other.
Yeah.
Territory stuff, so forth. And in that scene with the eyeball, that's when they like the rival street gang. They tell him like, hey, this is a warning, or this is, don't mess with us or whatever. And then they stab him in
Uh-huh.
the eye.
Oh wow.
And then yeah, literally like they do it, and then he's like holding his eye and he's screaming like really horribly, and it's like, oh man, this is
Oh
intense.
man.
But that's the point. They wanted to shock you. It
Yeah.
shocked me, so it did work.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So with the Violador Infernal, it's like it shocked people. It's like that's the selling point.
And
So that's kind of what I
did
wanted.
you guys say something in the beginning of the film like, hey, it might be like triggering, or
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
were
that's
like,
funny. It's funny because Michael did say that, but he was kind of being sarcastic about it, but
uh
at the
huh,
same time he was being serious,
yeah,
and then, and he kind of like was just like, oh, I had to leave a little, near the end. I noticed like he didn't even really watch the ending. I think he left like close to the ending because he
mm-hmm,
just couldn't, even he couldn't really handle it. I think
yeah,
at that point because it was like he was like, yeah, it was getting kind of too much for me even.
yeah,
And I was just like, yeah, I get it, I guess. Like, I can see why. But he wasn't, like, bothered by it. He understood what it was.
yeah.
But it was just funny that even he was just like, yeah, all right, I'm good.
And
So
What
that's what
about
I'm
like
saying. That yeah. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's like your favorite like horror Mexican horror film that you've shown?
So, trying to think. Well, I guess it would be that one, and then another one would be I showed one at Whammy Analog Media. It's called Asesino de Medianoche, and that one's
Okay.
a little different just because it's a very obscure '90s horror movie.
Uh huh.
It was shot in LA, but it was made by like a Mexican producer, Mexican director with a Mexican cast, people from the area, even from the Los Angeles area.
Oh wow.
And yeah, that was my first one at Whammy,
Uh
and it
huh.
was cool because people came out and I didn't do subtitles for that movie, so
Mhm.
we wanted to show the original tape. We didn't want to like show a digital copy.
Mhm.
So yeah, we just showed it in Spanish, and people still came. People that didn't even understand it were like, "Oh, it was cool." I didn't get it, but I didn't understand it, but I got the gist of it, and I like what I saw. It was interesting. It was cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, that movie was cool just because it's like a base. It's just a slasher.
Mhm.
There's a killer on the loose. The cops are trying to look for him. There's a reporter trying to find out who it is. And then we're supposed to think it's supposed to be his friend that he takes in, a drug addict,
Uh huh.
and like a Vietnam. They're both Vietnam War vets, so
Okay.
they both have mental issues and so forth. So that's part of the plot. It's like, oh, one of them's crazy, so
Yeah.
and they think it's him. Yeah, there's this whole like this thing. Yeah, so it's cool, and then like it's pretty brutal at times. Like there's one scene where there's like a teenage couple like making out in a truck,
Mhm.
and then he just comes out and he just starts stabbing on the knife, and he has a ski mask. You don't know what it is, and you're like, oh shit. So yeah, that one was probably my favorite one,
Uh huh.
besides the Frida stuff. Ladrones was cool, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that screen. But other ones besides the Frida, yeah, that would probably be my favorite one. Was the Asesino de Medianoche, and that's a very obscure movie too. It's just like it came out on DVD, but now you can't really find the DVD.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then the producer Jorge Gomez, he's still in the Los Angeles area. He's pretty cool. He was supportive enough to let me screen it. I asked for his permission,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." He didn't think much of it. He was just like, "Okay, yeah, just do it." I even asked him like, "Did you want like money?" He's like, "No, just go ahead, it's fine."
That's pretty
Like,
cool. And
yeah, that was fun.
yeah, because I was gonna ask that too, like, because with like American films, because those are like more mainstream. Sometimes you have to get like permissions to screen movies, but with these, like, do you need any of that, or is it kind of a little bit different the
Uh,
rules?
well, yeah, with these we booked through AGFA, American Genre Film Archive, and then they
Okay.
handled theatrical bookings for like a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Mostly with like companies that release these movies, like Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar Syndrome released Ladrones de Tumbas on
Yeah.
Blu-ray, and the other ones that we screened, Cementerio del Terror, Don't Panic, Infernal Rapist. So we booked their ACFA, and ACFA does the deal with Vinegar. Vinegar hands the rights over to them, to screen.
Okay.
And the funny thing about that is, me and Michael were the first to do Ladrones. Nobody
Yeah.
booked that movie for theatrical showing until us. You
Oh
know,
wow.
yeah, the movie was there for like what 3 years, 2 years for a theatrical booking.
Yeah.
Nobody booked it for some reason. We were the first. It
That's
was
pretty
crazy.
cool.
So we booked through there.
Okay.
And then then other Mexican movies there. There's right holders. Some of them are pretty okay to deal with. Some not so much at all.
Okay.
I don't really want to dwell into it, but yeah, it's just kind of a hard thing to do.
Is it
But
kind of
no, other
price?
than
Is
that,
it like pricey, or is it kind of like decent
it's a
as
mix.
far?
It's a mixture of like pricing. Well, what do you mean exactly?
Oh, I mean, like as far as like when you're asking for permission and all this stuff, like having to do it through them. Like, is it expensive to get like to be able to screen the films, or is it kind of in the middle?
Through F it was pretty easy. I mean, they give us a
Okay.
price,
Yeah.
and then if we were to go to somebody else, it's like gotta hear their price, and you gotta see if they're cool with it too. But
Yeah.
so far, it's been more of like X has been really cool with it. Other people, it's been challenging, at least for my end, because I'm always looking to outside of ACFA,
Uh huh.
and it's like no luck, no luck, no luck, or maybe. Well, yeah, like with Mexican producers and right holders, it's like pretty challenging still, but I think I found a way to like get to people,
Mhm.
like through another source, but I think we'll be fine though, in the future at least. Right
That's
now,
good.
it's just what we get easily, rather than just delve into the more obscure stuff or the harder stuff. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. And like I
Right
said,
now.
I'm down to collaborate on something here in San Diego because it's kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
a pain sometimes having to go all the way up there. But I'm like, sometimes I'll make the drive. Like I know you guys have a couple more things coming up, but and I was gonna ask you like, what's next for you guys for Trash
Next
Max?
in August.
Mm-hmm.
August. That's what Michael's saying. Yeah, we'll have a double feature, a horror double feature there, and I'm hoping to have a couple of the actors in the movie. I'm not
Nice.
gonna go into it yet, but
Yeah.
they were child, so, and I think they'll be down. I haven't asked them yet, but I think they'll be down, and if not, it's fine. But
Yeah.
I think a good chance that they'll want to come out for sure. Just because that movie does mean a lot to them and stuff.
That's
But
pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it'll be cool.
What year is it? If I know you can't say it just yet, but what year is the movie?
What year is it? That's a good question. Well, it's two of them, but one of them I know for sure is from 91, and then the other one is from
Is it
89.
it's a sequel or like a
It-
first and second part?
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it'll be cool. Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, I think
Especially,
Michael told me a little bit about it. He didn't say what the film was, but I was like, he's like, you're gonna want to go to this because I think I asked him, I'm like, do you guys
yeah,
envision having like a cast and like Q&A afterwards? And he's like, yeah,
yeah,
we're actually working on something.
just a couple of the actors. So hopefully they'll like want to come out because they are in the area too. That's the ironic part too.
Oh
So
wow.
I
Okay.
think they'll, I think they'll be down, especially because like I said, this is a movie that they basically began, I think, their acting career, their
Uh huh.
short acting. So yeah, it should be cool. I think. I mean, either way, like I said, whether we have them or not, it'll be interesting. Just because it's different, and then somewhere cool like Gardena, for example. I never been there, but it'll be cool to be there. To do something there.
Okay. I'll probably
So
for sure probably try to make that one because that's at the Gardena Cinema, right?
yeah, Gardena Cinema. Yeah, that one would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted
And,
to check it out. That
yeah, yeah,
place.
fun, yeah. I've been wanting to go there too, so it'll be cool to finally like go there and then actually to do something there.
Yeah, I hope it like
Because
if it
that was
gets bought out
good.
because it's trying to get it's for sale, right? Like because it couldn't keep up with the fees or something. I remember seeing an article and I'm like, I hope somebody buys it and just keeps it as a theater.
And then I think I heard that the Mana might not even sell. I forgot. I don't
I
know.
hope not.
There's always something going on there, but no, I
Yeah.
think from yeah, they're not going to sell, but you never know.
Okay.
I don't change, but
Yeah.
I think now it's like to the point where they're like, okay, well, not just yet. We think we're gonna stay here a little longer. I think that
Okay.
was too. It's like not yet, but we're here still.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I just found out about it. I think like TikTok, like somebody did a review on it and it kind of blew up. And then I was like, what? Where is this? And I was like, oh shit, it's a Gardena. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
not that far.
yeah, Gardena.
And it's just
Yes,
one screen, right? Or do they have two?
it's literally just one screen, and I
Right.
forgot how. It's pretty big. Like it looks small in there. That I mean, from the outside, it looks like it could be small, but
Mm-hmm.
look at the interior. It's like, oh, it's pretty spacious. And then you go into the actual theater. It's like, oh, this is big.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah, it
I
looks
remember,
pretty cool.
yeah, Michael was saying there's like a lot of old, like projection equipment in there still. So it's still very like old fashioned looking in there. Still very, very of product of its time. It's not much
Yeah.
has changed. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it should be fun. Yeah, I think people will come out, and like I said, it's cool, and it'll be fun to see that with the crowd.
Yeah, yeah. Keep me
Other than
posted if you get the cast and everything. I'll
yeah,
probably still try
yeah,
to go because I've been wanting to go out
like,
there.
cool. Yeah, it's cool to like see it in like at home if you have that if you have the advantage to. But then it's
Mm-hmm.
like I think it'll be much more fun to see it in a theater. Just like
Yeah,
with Ladrones, that movie was out on Blu-ray already when we screened it, but again, like 100 some people came. You know,
yeah.
like selling out the show. I think we were like 11 tickets away from selling out, from what I recall.
Oh
I
wow.
believe. I don't even remember, but it was like almost gonna sell out.
Okay.
One night over, top it off. It was only one screening, and then for a movie that was already out on Blu-ray, it's like no, people still wanted to come see it in a theater.
Yeah, I think it's just different, like a different
Yeah,
experience.
and with these movies, I think yeah, people are gonna be like, oh, you know what? I think I kind of want to see this in the theater. This would be fun. So yeah, and I'm gonna throw in some ideas for Michael too, so to make it even more fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Reel more people in. Like that's another thing I'm always thinking of, like ideas, like what can we do to reel more people in.
Uh huh.
But yeah, I haven't one.
Okay. And I kind of wanted to play a little. Like I've been trying to do a different thing with the podcast of doing like trivia, and so I kind of wanted to test your knowledge. I think these are easy, but you'll tell me if otherwise. But the first one, I was gonna say, what year was Ladrones de Tumbas released, and no Googling.
Was it 89, I believe?
Yes, yes, it was.
Yeah. Mm.
And then the second one here, what's considered the first Mexican horror film with sound?
La Llorona, I believe that's from 31 or 33. I forget. But I know it's like,
33. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
30.
right. Nice. And then the last one here, I think, let me see if I wrote it down. Yeah, I put name two Mexican horror movies directed by Ruben Galindo Jr.
So we got Ladrones de Tumbas. And then I'll give you one that not a lot of people know about.
Okay.
Resucitaré para matarlos,
Okay. Yeah,
which
I've never heard of that one.
is resurrected to kill. Yeah. So yeah, I'll
Nice.
give you. But yeah, yeah, he directed that movie.
Okay, cool. I have to check that one out. What was it called again? One more time, because it kind of broke up a little bit.
Resucitaré para matarlos.
Okay. And was
Yeah.
that like a slasher or what is it?
Uh, so it's kind of a funny movie. It's like
Yeah.
I'll send you like a picture of the cover and everything because the
Uh
cover
huh.
is so ridiculous. So it's basically about this kid. They're like in high school, I believe. Yeah, they're like in high school, I believe, or maybe even college. No, high school, yeah. They're always picking on this one guy. Doesn't really talk, like nerdy. And then they like pull a prank on him on the shower, like they accidentally kill him
Oh
in
shit.
the locker rooms, yeah. And then they bury his body, and then like all this crazy stuff starts to happen to them one by one. And then
Oh.
like later on, yeah, we see him like I guess back to life, and he looks like a demon or something or a monster. I don't know.
Uh huh.
It's pretty weird. Like it's very Ruben Galindo Jr. When I saw, I was like, oh, this is definitely his style for sure. It's just not good as his other movies, but it's. I know this was this. This is obviously his idea, his style, and so forth. But
Okay.
it's cool. It's very obscure too. That's like one that never got released on DVD either.
Okay.
It could be on YouTube, I believe, if I recall, but I'm not really too sure. But it's pretty obscure though. It only
Okay.
came out. It's like on this really ridiculous VHS cover that has nothing to do with the movie.
I have to
Like,
check
I
it out then.
describe the cover is like they drew one of the actors of the movie, of the if that's in the movie,
Uh huh.
and then it's Dark Man. You know the movie Dark Man.
Yeah, yeah.
They took the template from the Dark Man poster and like did their own thing with the actor,
Oh
and
my
it's
gosh.
oh, yeah, I don't know.
That's hilarious.
Even like back cover, it's like it does tell you what the movie's about, sort of.
Mhm.
Stills are not even from the movie; it's from another movie that the actor was in. So it's
Oh, okay.
they were trying to sell this as some kind of action movie. That's pretty much what I got from it, at least.
Mhm.
But the movie's not action; it's like a horror thriller kind of thing.
Oh my god, that's funny.
But yeah, that was one of his later movies. I think that's from 91 or 90. I forgot. Somewhere in the 90s.
Okay. And what about your
Yeah.
top five like Mexican horror films?
Uh, that's a hard one. I guess I'll do five that I like really like. Not really favorites, but I really like. It
Mhm.
would be Herencia Diabólica, which is a killer clown doll movie. It's very cheap, by the way. But
Oh yeah, I think I've seen your clips of it.
yeah, that's another like staple right there. Like Ratas de las Ciudades,
Uh
that's
huh.
like another right there. That's another one. So the
Uh huh.
Herencia Diabólica. And then it's another obscure movie from the same producer. It's called Demon Doll.
Okay.
It's also called Muerte Infernal. That's what people know it as, but I call it Demon Doll just because that's the original title.
Uh huh.
So Demon Doll, which is about a ventriloquist dummy, and this guy, he's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous too, but it's cool. That's a horror movie.
Yeah.
But so that one, and then I like Ladrones de Tumbas, of course. That's a cool one.
Mhm.
One actually is really like close to me, even more now that I screened it. But
Yeah.
so that was cool. And then I like Cien Gritos de Terror. It's a classic black and white movie, horror movie.
Okay.
And then the last one, man, I don't know what to put for the last one. Man, what can I put for the last one? Trying to think. I guess I'm gonna go with Hasta el viento tiene miedo, the
Okay.
class.
The classic. Yeah.
Yeah, that 60s one. So, Enrique Taboada. Yeah, that one's cool. I like that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's
That was cool.
cool. And then before we get out of here, I usually like to ask this last question to end it. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, either like creatively or personally?
Um, I mean, I don't really like to feel like a legacy, but more
Okay.
like just to like sort of just to get these movies more out there, the ones that I always post about, talk about.
Yeah.
I want more people to watch them, and obviously I want people to remember them, especially the people that grew up on this stuff, like don't forget it, you
Yes.
know, I'll still appreciate it, still watch them if you can. And of course, I want other people of other cultures to watch them too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was to like screen Fiscal de Hierro, the Mario Almada action movie that I showed on
Mm-hmm.
Sunday.
Yeah.
It was cool to a crowd of like, yeah, there were several Mexicans, Latinos, but there was also like whites in there too. And
Yeah.
they're not very familiar with this type of cinema, so for them to see that and actually really like it, they were like, yeah, this is actually really cool. I never seen this before.
Yeah.
Or some people, like a couple of friends of Michael's, they're Asian, and they were like, yeah, this is cool. Actually, I grew up watching this stuff, so it was
Oh.
cool to. So even then, it's like, see, so either
Yeah.
you remember it or you didn't grew up around it
Mm-hmm.
or you're familiar with it. I want people to still see them.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Not
You.
just like genre. I want them to see the action stuff. I want them to see the dramas, even if they want to. Just all
Uh-huh.
genres. I want
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
to just rather than the obvious stuff, because I feel like when people think of Mexican cinema, they're just gonna think Amores Perros, which I mean I don't really I don't care for the movie personally,
Uh-huh.
and I understand why it's hyped up. Like people do really like it. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I don't really care for it, but I just feel like that's not really the Mexican cinema that I grew up in. That's not that I'm familiar with. Even
Same.
like you know, like when I watch that movie, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like
It's like the
I'm
more
not.
mainstream side of
Yeah,
the
it
Mexican cinema.
makes two to top it off, and then it's just it feels more like it wants to be European.
Yeah.
That's the thing too about this sort of cinema, like that movie, and then the what's that other one called? Y tu mamá también.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen
Like
that one.
these are they're just trying to cater to a crowd that doesn't really care for Mexico. They just like the idea of Mexico. That's just my opinion, anyways.
Yeah.
The idea of it, but they don't really get the culture. You watch a movie like Ratas de la Ciudad, for example, you're gonna see the real Mexico. I think.
Like back then,
The
how it
suburbs
was violent.
and yeah, the regional areas and everything and so forth, and what was going on in the world back
Mm-hmm.
then. A lot of poverty. Kids were on drugs. There's violence. Drugs. And
Yeah.
I know that sounds really negative. It seems like it's a negative portrayal of Mexico, but it's really
But it
not.
was the reality of
It,
back then.
exactly. You even said the word I before I even said it. It's the
Yeah.
reality. The
Yeah.
world that we live, the world that they're living in. It's
Yeah.
just, for example, like here, we're not so perfect here in America either. There's
Mm-hmm.
violence, but again, that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Ratas de la Ciudad, to me, that's more Mexico for me. That's what I was more familiar with. When I look at that movie, I see the culture that I grew up on. And not
Yeah.
just aspects, but the other aspects. For example, Los Caminantes, they're in the movie.
Yeah.
A lot of us here in California know that group because that was the music our parents listened to, our grandparents or
Yep.
whoever.
Uh-huh.
And you look at Amores Perros, you're like, what is it?
It's like I never saw that in my life.
I'm not sure. So, I'm just thinking like this movie feels more like it's trying to be like European for me. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. It wants to be European so badly, but it's like, no, dude, you can't be European in Mexico. It's like,
Yeah.
show the real culture. Don't just show us the idea that you have of Mexico.
Yeah.
I think that's for me. That's just my opinion. I'm sure people are gonna see this and be like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck is this?" That's
Yeah,
just
but
my.
I agree with you. Yeah, because even like what I love about like the 80s and 90s, like the real like Mexican cinema, it was also besides like the violence, because it showed like the realities of what was going on, the drugs and all that stuff, but it was also I love like movies like Pánico en la Montaña, like different ones where they actually showed also the supernatural side, and then like Los
Yeah,
Ranchos and like the small towns, which we don't see that a lot either in like the mainstream but something that we can relate to. Because at least when I go back home where my parents are from, like it has that little like old school like town vibe where everybody knows each other, and you don't see that in mainstream films. At least
Just,
not. I don't know about
yeah,
nowadays, but
just like with Ladrones de Tumbas, that was another one that was like set in
yes.
that area. Cemetery of Terror, Cemetery de
Oh
Terror. That
yeah,
took place actually, but it was in Brownsville, Texas, and at that time, even now, still, it was just a lot of Mexicans living there.
yeah.
So even it still feels like close to home. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, this is how it was. This is how it looked back then.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. But again, like I said, those other movies that I mentioned, no, yeah. When people tell me like, oh, I like Amores Perros, it's like, oh, okay. I roll my eyes, but in my mind, I don't roll my eyes. My eyeballs in the brain are just like, oh god.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I want people to see the real Mexico. The
Yeah.
Mexico that I'm familiar with. A lot of us are familiar with.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
So
pretty cool
yeah,
that you're doing that.
that's just the goal. To see, to open the people's eyes of what Mexico is really like. Not just the negative stuff. Like I said, don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think negative either. I
Yeah.
want the beauty of it. The culture. The
Yeah.
music. Just like the Fiscal de Hierro movie. So it's funny that movie Lucha Villas. You know who Lucha Villas, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so she's in the movie playing this drug trafficker, badass drug trafficker. She's like hitting guns and then she's like shooting guns and so forth. And then the scene where she just like remembers of a time when she used to sing. So we get literally a whole musical
Musical.
number. There's there's a mariachi there. There's people around her just watching her, like amazed by her singing. And translated it. So that was the movie that I translated for this festival.
Okay.
So it's fun to translate the song so that way, because I wanted people to understand what the song was. I didn't want it to just be like the song number and then didn't understand it. The people that didn't speak Spanish at least.
Uh-huh.
And, like literally after it was over, people were just like clapping. Literally everybody I think clapped in that in
That's
the
pretty
audience.
cool.
Was such a good. It was such a good song, such a good performance actually. As random
Yeah.
as it was, but people really liked it. That's what I'm saying. See that was the real Mexico, for example, right there. Her music.
Yeah, I remember that. That's another reason why I like the Mexican films again, like those musical numbers. Because for me, like I was telling my friend the
Yeah,
other day, how I fell in love with music was Pedrito Fernandez, and he
there
was
we go.
singing
Yeah.
all his songs, right? So I would do it, and like I told him that I was in kindergarten, and I would like walk by myself, like not kindergarten, first grade. I was like a loner kind of, and I would
Mhm.
pretend I was him and like make up my
Yeah,
own Mexican songs.
yeah,
So it's hilarious that you
yeah.
say that.
That's what, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, so see, that was an example of me showing the real Mexico.
Yeah,
This beautiful singer, that's very famous in Mexico. Like she's still very famous. Like even though
yeah,
she's living like a not a secluded life, but like she's just living
private.
her private life now.
Mm-hmm.
But YouTube and like on the internet, there's so many views for her music videos and so forth. People still love her, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't even, I saw your story and I was like, because I still have her on my playlist, like she'll come up here and there. And then when I
Yeah,
saw your story, I was like, oh, that's dope. I didn't even know she was in a movie.
yeah, yeah. She was in several movies. That's the funny part
Damn,
too. She
that's
a lot of
crazy.
here, but this was her first time being in one where she gets to be a villain. Like actually be somebody very bad.
Yeah.
And then, but again, like I told the people in the audience before, like the movie started, I was like, so we have this famous ranchera singer playing this bad drug trafficker, but they did not skip out on her singing. Like they needed her to sing in the movie, so they have her sing in the movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, and then she does her singing, and yeah, it was really random, but it was so good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's what I like about Mexican films too. Because we also have like the like women villains, but also like the badasses. Like I grew up watching like Lola la Trailera. Like
Oh,
I don't know, I love that stuff.
yeah, yeah. So that was like I said, that was like my way of showing Mexico. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
we have this lady,
Yeah.
very that plays a drug trafficker, but hold up, she sings really good, and you're gonna like it. And sure enough, yeah, people liked it.
Yeah,
That
that's
that
pretty
was like
cool.
we're like, oh man, that movie was great. A lot of action, unintentional funny moments, and then that singing, that was great. They were like, it was very random, but it was so good. And like somebody like American, they're not Hispanic or anything. They were just like, they're American and white, they're
Mm-hmm.
just like really good. You know, I'm glad I got to see this, I
Yeah,
want to see. So yeah, that was cool. I was very happy with that turnout for that movie.
that's
So,
cool.
yeah, so basically going back to what you said, that's the goal, I guess, for me. It's like
Mm-hmm.
just we're out there, see the
Yeah,
real Mexico, see the culture of the past, and just appreciate it more,
yeah, yeah. No,
because
well,
I
I
Mexican
hope you
culture.
continue to screen more. Sorry, I was like, I hope you continue to screen more of these because it's really dope to see them.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point too. My screening is to just to keep the culture alive, keep the movies alive, and give them the appreciation they deserve. Because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of movies are just like ignored completely, or they're just like looked down upon by some people. Like some
Yeah.
people, oh, this is trash. That's literally how I derived the name Trash-Mex because people call it trash. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, trash that I'm like finding or picking up,
Mm-hmm.
it's not they're treasures. They're cool.
Yeah.
They're actually like no, like let me show you the real good stuff. The trash for me is the actual trash. Is that European inspired crap.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
no, yeah.
well, I hope you guys, continue to do it because I really enjoy it, and I'm pretty sure like other people have told you guys the same. Like it's like a nostalgia about it too. So, thank you for
Yeah.
being on today and like talking a little bit more about it because I was like, it was really cool to see your growth. Because like I said, I remember hearing when you would invite me to the ones that were like, was it like Pomona Relay? What area were
So,
those? The
what was that
bookshop?
now? Yeah, the bookshops in Boyle Heights and then
Boyle
Whammies and
Heights.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So it's come like a long way. So I've seen it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it got to like a bigger extent now. From there, it was just a
Yeah.
smaller aspect. Now it's like this more of a bigger aspect. Yeah, basically, it did grew. In the
Yeah.
matter of like, years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
congrats on that.
yeah. There's more planned. Like Michael's always planning his stuff and then our stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like, do this in August. Hey, we're probably gonna do this in September or October. Like he's already like he's ahead of it. He's more
Yeah.
of the book kind of guy. So
Uh-huh.
like yeah, just keep me up to date, bro. Like let me know the dates so that way I know what to do already and get ready.
Yeah. All
Yeah, like
right.
our next big thing is Texas, I believe, which is like later in the year. But we'll dwell into that some other time. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah, keep me posted and like I'm always down to have you or maybe have you guys both. That'd be cool. To see
yeah,
where
yeah,
you're at like in a couple
yeah.
months from now and then like I said, in San Diego, if you come down, we can collaborate on something.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael's always like, we'll go to San Diego, but we want him to beg. So
Yeah.
he was like, he's like, yeah, like that was another thing we were talking about San Diego, but then after all, we got with the other stuff, and
Uh-huh.
then he brought San Diego today. He was like, yeah, well, we're gonna have them beg us to come though.
Yeah.
We're not try to make ourselves go there. It's like, now let's get them to beg us because everywhere else is begging us now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
hopefully we'll
oh,
make something happen.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And like I said, we'll keep you updated, and then I'm sure we'll have something involved with you as well. That was kind of
Okay.
another about a while back. Like, oh yeah, yeah, we need to have Gabby involved for something in San Diego. And he
Yeah,
was
that'd
like,
be dope.
for sure.
All right, man. Well, before we get out of here, I just want to thank everybody who tuned in. And then, as you see right here, has his IG Trash-Mex, trash underscore Mex underscore. You can follow him. I'll put everything in the description.
No, but thank you again for having me. I mean, I appreciate it. I love what you're doing.
Yeah,
You're all grinding and grinding, and like I said, that's kind of why me and Michael click is because me and him are always just wanting to do stuff, and you
yeah,
always are something.
yeah,
Whether it's music, your poetry, your blog, it's
yeah.
awesome. So keep going. Like I said, I think I've told like you before and other people like just
Hmm.
keep going. Got to keep going.
Yeah,
That's don't stop. Take a break,
yeah.
but work. Just like a lot of us, we grew up in an environment where we have to work hard to
That's
get what
true.
we. So let's just keep going. So you
Yeah,
keep going.
true, true. Thank you so much. All right. Well, everybody, subscribe to the channel, comment, like, all that stuff. It would be appreciated. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Guys, bye.
Bye.